You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
The mass deportations already taking a toll on immigrant communities, and now we're getting a clearer picture of the economic costs to California. Plus, a warning about dangerous forever chemicals found in fish from the Bay. A new study shines a light on the seafood you should avoid. And we are going to show you how owls are attracting quite a crowd to a Bay Area neighborhood. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to have those stories and lots more coming up right after our news headlines. The Supreme Court handed down a setback to transgender rights. The justices upheld a law from Tennessee that restricts some medical treatments for transgender children. Tennessee is one of more than 24 states that passed bans on surgery, puberty blockers, and hormone therapy.
So the question is that constitutional? And the justices in a 6-3 decision written by the Chief Justice, John Roberts, said yes.
The ruling means those bans now have a stronger chance of surviving legal challenges. The ruling does not affect states, though, that do not have those bans. Healthcare workers at Children's Hospital Oakland on the picket lines at issue a plan to transfer current union contracts to the UC system. The National Union of Healthcare Workers says that would lead to firings, pay cuts, and higher premiums on health insurance. It is an open-ended strike, so it could go on for a while. Elective surgeries and appointments are being rescheduled. The emergency department, though, is still open. In a statement, UCSF claims that claims that employees are being fired and rehired are simply false. Every employee is being mapped to a position in the appropriate unit at UCSF. PG&E warning of potential power shutoffs as early as tomorrow. The utility says pockets of Alameda, Contra Costa, Napa, Santa Clara, and Sonoma counties could be impacted through Sunday. PG&E says it would be a precautionary measure because of high fire danger. And the brush fire that broke out in East San Jose yesterday is now fully contained. Here's a look at the burn scar today. It spans the size of almost 70 football fields. It's called the Ranch Fire. Broke out at around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon along Ranch Place. Fire crews, including air support, stopped forward progress overnight. That fire briefly threatened some homes, but no injuries or structural damage has been reported. All right, time to get a check on our first alert forecast. It is the hottest day of the week. Let's get over to meteorologist Jessica Birch.
Well, it is the warmest day of the week for us here in the Bay Area, with daytime highs this afternoon topping off in the upper 90s all the way over in Antioch, low 60s along the coast in areas like Half Moon Bay. That's over a 34-degree difference just within those two microclimates alone. And you head all the way up into the North Bay, we're dealing with a very similar trend too. Very warm conditions, well above average for this time of year, with low 90s in Santa Rosa, mid 80s in the forecast throughout the rest of wine country. I mean, even San Francisco today is topping off at 71 degrees. So despite the fact that we woke up with some cloudy skies along the shoreline and in the bay, we'll be exposed to a lot more sunshine throughout this afternoon, with 80s in the forecast stretched all the way down into the Santa Clara Valley. Now that's story number one. Today is the warmest day of this week so far. But story number two, it has to do with the wind. So earlier this morning, we were dealing with nice light winds. Into this afternoon, it's starting to pick up a lot, especially along our shoreline. Areas like Bodega Bay and San Francisco could see about 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts at times. Now we advance the clock all the way into Thursday afternoon, just around the same time actually. We're seeing very similar conditions. That onshore breeze really kicking up into the evening hours around dinner time, and we're getting a repeat of that once again as we head into our Friday afternoon forecast. All the way into areas like Half Moon Bay, up into Bodega Bay, those winds really start to kick up. So the big concern, of course, could be potentials for a power shutoff in our local communities. So we're going to keep a close eye on that heading into the next few afternoons. Despite that, though, I mean, it's going to be a windy setup, but it's still a lot cooler as we head into our Thursday, Friday forecast. By Saturday and Sunday, we're right back to the 80s for our friends in our inland areas, while our friends along the coast and all the way along the bay are kind of flirting back and forth with 60s and 70s.
A worker walkout at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital could disrupt patient care in the East Bay. Veronica Macias reports from the picket lines about what is behind this dispute.
This picket line here at Children's Hospital Oakland likely to really impact patients. Elective surgeries and appointments have been rescheduled now with the start of this open-ended strike. This crowd out here saying they're fired up and they're demonstrating to be a tight-knit group of healthcare workers, like family, unified in this fight to push back against UCSF's integration plan with Children's Hospital Oakland, which is set to start in early July. At the core of the issue is the cancellation of healthcare workers' contract with the replacement of a new contract with UCSF. But as they become UC employees, healthcare workers claim they're losing a lot, significantly in pay. Healthcare workers claim UCSF has never prioritized keeping care in Oakland. The union says on average an employee would lose $10,000 in take-home pay. And for some who call Children's Hospital Oakland family, they would lose their seniority.
I've been at Children's Hospital for 32 years. So if this integration is allowed to happen, my pension will stop and I'll go into a new pension system at UCSF, and I will be vested, but I will not get my years of service. So my 32 years means nothing. Also, I will lose my seniority. So I think that a person that is working at UCSF that gets hired on July 5th, the integration is supposed to happen on July 6th, so they will have more seniority than I have. So I have nothing. I've been working here 32 years, and I work here 32 years because I love the patients and the people that work at Children's. This is just like a family. Everybody in the community has a Children's Hospital story because we take care of our community, and I don't believe that UCSF will able to take care of Children's Hospital's community because they're not vested here in Oakland.
In a statement, UCSF says claims that employees are being fired and rehired are simply false. Every employee is being mapped to a position in the appropriate union at UCSF. The emergency room here at Children's Hospital Oakland remains open. However, other clinics like those in Walnut Creek, those are impacted as well. Healthcare workers here today telling me it's very likely that this disagreement will end up in court.
Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, growing concerns over mass deportations among immigrant communities.
People are definitely being more cautious about when they come out.
Now we are getting a look at the long-term economic impact we could be feeling here in California. Plus, over a century ago, a landmark case solidified birthright citizenship in the U.S. Now with that right under attack, we highlight the man who first brought this issue to the forefront. And we are highlighting stories of compassion and understanding. This Pride Month, we're going to introduce you to a father making sure his daughter feels like she belongs.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Well, it's the warmest day of this week for us all throughout the Bay Area. We're gearing up for 90s this afternoon. In our inland spots like the East Bay, the North Bay, and for our friends in the Santa Clara Valley, we have mid-80s in the forecast throughout this afternoon with sunny skies widespread. We jump back down to the 70s, though, just in time for the first day of summer landing on Friday. It's going to be a beautiful way to kick off the first day of summer with a little bit more mild conditions and cloudier skies for our friends along the bay. Notice how if you live in San Francisco or Oakland, we're jumping to the 60s this weekend, 70s by next week.
Now to that high-stakes hearing in a San Francisco federal court pitting Governor Newsom against the Trump administration. That battle centers over the National Guard and whether President Trump has the authority to deploy them over the objections of the governor. An appeals court heard arguments yesterday, Governor Newsom maintaining that the deployment to LA was illegal and done without his permission. But the president's attorney argued the deployment is both legal and necessary to maintain order. Lauren Toms was there as both sides made their arguments.
The United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit is now in session.
A high-stakes public hearing in federal court unfolded Tuesday as California's authority collided with presidential power. At the heart of it is President Trump's decision to federalize California National Guard troops and deploy them to Los Angeles amid protests that have gripped the city for weeks. Inside, a panel of 3 federal judges, 2 appointed by President Trump and 1 by former President Biden, listened as attorneys for both sides laid out opposing visions of the law and limits of federal power. Representing the president, attorney Brett Shumate argued that the deployment is both legal and necessary to maintain order and protect federal interests.
Those guardsmen are necessary on the ground today to prevent breaches of the federal buildings, to protect ICE officers when they are conducting their law enforcement operations. The guardsmen are not conducting law enforcement. They are charged with a protective mission, not a law enforcement mission.
But lawyers for California Governor Gavin Newsom told a different story. Attorney Sam Herbert acknowledged some violence on the streets, but insisted the guards' presence risks escalating tensions rather than calming them.
A stay pending appeal would profoundly injure the state of California and our nation more generally. It would allow defendants to continue diverting thousands of guardsmen away from critical work at the state level, including wildfire prevention and drug interdiction. It would allow defendants to further escalate tensions and the risk of violence in the city of Los Angeles.
Outside of the courthouse, the debate drew in local teacher Joanna Gaeta. The daughter of immigrants, she says she stopped by to make her voice heard. She marched over the weekend and says a military presence only stokes fear and violence.
It's to try and silence and discourage people from coming out and speaking out against something that we know is wrong.
Attorney Randy Knox says this case is about more than just one city or state, but the balance of power in times of unrest.
If he's allowed to do it in California, he'll be allowed to do it every place. So, yeah, it would have that kind of implication. And it's going to fundamentally change how law enforcement responds, the authority of local and state police, and who they report to and whose orders they follow.
And back inside the courtroom, subtle clues emerged as to how the judges may rule, likely in favor of the White House. During arguments for the president, only the 2 Trump appointees engaged. But when it was the state's turn, all 3 judges pressed for clarity.
So if we were to agree with you that there is some judicial review here, how much discretion does he have in California's view under this statute in deciding when to federalize?
The panel's ruling, expected within days, won't just decide who controls the Guard in California, but could redefine presidential and local power across the nation.
Meantime, the curfew in downtown Los Angeles has been lifted. LA Mayor Karen Bass implemented that curfew more than a week ago after some anti-ICE protests turned violent. The mayor now says the protests are winding down. As immigration enforcement continues, a new study estimates that mass deportations could put a significant dent in California's economy. The Bay Area Council estimates that the crackdown could cost the state $275 billion. Our Suji Nam spoke with local community leaders who say the Bay Area is already feeling the impact.
Susana Rojas, the executive director of Calle 24 Latino Cultural District in the Mission, is putting up these banners in both English and Spanish along 24th Street.
Banners that we put out every day just with the constitutional rights. And again, the purpose is if anybody is walking around and they don't know their constitutional rights, they can go ahead and read them here.
What's normally a bustling corridor, it's a very different scene now.
This last few days, he has been a little bit slower than normal. People are definitely being more cautious about when they come out.
Many of the businesses in the Mission District are immigrant-owned, local mom and pop shops. But Rojas says with the threat of ICE raids and mass deportations, they've already put a dent economically in San Francisco, as fewer people are reporting to work and with less customer foot traffic.
It's a city that is fueled by immigrant work.
A new report released by the Bay Area Council Economic Institute says of California's 10.6 million immigrants, nearly 2.3 million are undocumented, representing 8% of all workers in California.
These industries are already facing significant labor shortages.
Abby Royce, the Institute's research director, says here in the Bay, immigrants make up 1/3 of the population and about 20% of them are undocumented. If significant numbers of deportations continue, the agriculture, construction, and hospitality industries will be hit the hardest.
You lose this workforce and we're not building homes, we're not harvesting crops, prices skyrocket for everyone.
The report states undocumented workers generate nearly 5% of the state's gross national product. And Royce adds, it's not just the workforce the state is losing.
Undocumented immigrants in the state of California pay over $23 billion in taxes. That is no small number.
Here's another place.
Meanwhile, Rojas says the community has flyers posted on their windows explaining what to do if ICE shows up. And she's also been handing out these Know Your Rights cards.
We've had a lot of people with bad intentions calling our businesses and saying that ICE is coming.
So she is calling on the community for help.
Come to the Mission, support the businesses, shop in the Mission. That helps us be able to stay open.
As Rojas says, she will continue to do so as well, like shopping from her local florist to make sure they know that they are valued.
Well, stay with us for continuing coverage on all of this. KPIX, KPIX.com, and streaming on the free CBS News app. Still ahead, we are going to introduce you to the great-grandson of the San Francisco man who established birthright citizenship as a right. Now he is fighting to make sure his family's history is not erased.
Never give up, baby.
night, just around 5 o'clock, around dinner time. We can see gusts up to around 30 miles per hour in San Francisco, 40-mile-per-hour winds all the way over into Bodega Bay. But I want to advance the clock all the way to our Thursday forecast, just around the same time, so around dinner time hours tomorrow. Well, now we're up to around 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts in San Francisco, while our friends in Livermore and Fairfield are experiencing about 30-mile-per-hour wind gust. All the way into Friday we go. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is it's going to be a repeat of that again as we head into the next couple afternoons. So it's important to note that breezy conditions are expected for us each day. And with that in mind, let's talk about the weather story for us today. We have some warm conditions as we head into this afternoon. We're talking about 90s, close to the triple digits all the way over into Antioch, with low 60s along our coast. Such a difference when it comes to our daytime highs and all these different microclimates here in the Bay. About 34 degrees of a difference from Antioch over into Half Moon Bay. We have 90s in the forecast this afternoon up into Santa Rosa, with 80s throughout the rest of wine country. And speaking of 80s, that's a very similar setup for our friends all the way into the Santa Clara Valley throughout this afternoon, with Morgan Hill being the exception of that.
A teenager accused of vandalizing San Francisco's Pink Triangle is in custody. Police say the 19-year-old defaced the memorial yesterday afternoon, and they say they caught him in the act. Pink Triangle goes up every year on Twin Peaks as a symbol of pride. Of course, it's Pride Month. That symbol was used by Nazis during the Holocaust to identify gay men in concentration camps. State Senator Scott Wiener responded to the vandalism in a statement saying, quote, "Nothing will stop this community's spirit, and I'm confident the Pink Triangle will be repaired and back in order quickly." The Supreme Court will wrap up their session at the end of June. We're still waiting on a ruling on the fight over birthright citizenship, which began in San Francisco. The Trump administration claims the Constitution does not guarantee citizenship to all people born in the U.S., but that right was affirmed by the 1898 Supreme Court case involving a man from San Francisco's Chinatown, Wong Kim Ark. Kevin Coe talked with his great-grandson, who is unexpectedly carrying on his family's legacy.
Norman Wong had to wait until the 80s before he learned his family history was intertwined with American history.
My place in the world has changed because I have a famous great-great-grandfather, and he really did make a difference by willing to fight the system.
Norman Wong is the great-grandson of Wong Kim Ark, born in 1873 in San Francisco. He was denied re-entry after a visit to China, sued the U.S., arguing the 14th Amendment guaranteed his citizenship, and won. That fight still runs in Norman's bloodline more than a century later.
His efforts actually validated my life to some extent.
The 1898 Supreme Court decision set the precedent for birthright citizenship. This year, President Trump issued an executive order with the aim of putting an end to the practice as it stands.
I signed an order that will end birthright citizenship for the children of illegal aliens, because it wasn't meant for these children.
The Trump administration argues the 14th Amendment has been interpreted incorrectly and far too broadly. It's a sentiment for Norman that doesn't sit well.
We need to get America on the right track where people care for each other. If we're going to live as a people, we're going to die as one people. And it's up to us.
Civil rights attorney Annie Lee is the managing director of policy at the CAA in Chinatown.
Birthright citizenship is something we take for granted. It's been the law of the land for over 100 years, and everyone thought it was settled because it's very clear in the 14th Amendment.
She says the executive order has no legal basis, but believes some damage has already been done.
Even if it loses in the courts, what you have done is you have instilled fear in the community. You have signaled to, H-1B visa holders that you're not actually welcome here, even though you can work here right now. You shouldn't see a future for yourself here.
Recently, San Francisco officials held a ceremony outside the apartment where Wong Kim Ark lived in Chinatown to commemorate his landmark Supreme Court case 127 years ago. Now, his 74-year-old great-grandson is unexpectedly picking up where he left off.
I feel, I don't know, maybe his energy runs through me too, but I also feel the energy of all these people that support me to bring out what I say for the sake of this country and my posterity. Let's get it right.
Well, coming up in our next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, millions of acres of federal land in California could be transformed to areas surrounded by nature that could be turned into housing. Plus, a warning for anyone who has eaten seafood from the Bay.
You gotta choose what you eat, though, you know? The smaller, the better, because there's less chemicals in them.
We'll let you know about the fish that could contain dangerous amounts of forever chemicals.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thanks for staying with us this Wednesday. I'm Ann Makovic, and here's another look at some of our news headlines. The Supreme Court just handed down a setback to transgender rights. In a 6-3 decision, the justices upheld a Tennessee law that restricts some medical treatments for transgender children. 26 other states have laws with similar restrictions. This ruling now means those bans have a stronger chance of surviving legal challenges. The ruling does not affect states that do not have those bans. Healthcare workers at Children's Hospital Oakland are on the picket lines. At issue is a plan to transfer current union contracts to the UC system. The National Union of Healthcare Workers says that would lead to firings, pay cuts, and higher premiums on health insurance. UCSF says the union's claims that employees are being hired and rehired are false. PG&E is warning of potential power shutoffs as early as tomorrow. The utility says pockets of Alameda, Contra Costa, Napa, Santa Clara, and Sonoma counties could all be impacted through Sunday. PG&E says it would be a precautionary measure because of high fire danger. All right, let's get a check on our midweek first alert forecast. Here is meteorologist Jessica Birch.
Well, it is the warmest day of the week for us here in the Bay Area, with daytime highs this afternoon topping off in the upper 90s all the way over in Antioch, low 60s along the coast in areas like Half Moon Bay. That's over a 34-degree difference just within those two microclimates alone. And you head all the way up into the North Bay, we're dealing with a very similar trend too. Very warm conditions, well above average for this time of year, with low 90s in Santa Rosa, mid 80s in the forecast throughout the rest of wine country. I mean, even San Francisco today is topping off at 71 degrees. So despite the fact that we woke up with some cloudy skies along the shoreline and in the bay, we'll be exposed to a lot more sunshine throughout this afternoon, with 80s in the forecast stretched all the way down into the Santa Clara Valley. Now that's story number one. Today is the warmest day of this week so far. But story number two, it has to do with the wind. So earlier this morning, we were dealing with nice light winds. Into this afternoon, it's starting to pick up a lot, especially along our shoreline. Areas like Bodega Bay and San Francisco could see about 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts at times. Now we advance the clock all the way into Thursday afternoon, just around the same time actually. We're seeing very similar conditions. That onshore breeze really kicking up into the evening hours around dinner time, and we're getting a repeat of that once again as we head into our Friday afternoon forecast. All the way into areas like Half Moon Bay, up into Bodega Bay, those winds really start to kick up. So the big concern, of course, could be potentials for a power shutoff in our local communities. So we're going to keep a close eye on that heading into the next few afternoons. Despite that, though, I mean, it's going to be a windy setup, but it's still a lot cooler as we head into our Thursday, Friday forecast. By Saturday and Sunday, we're right back to the 80s for our friends in our inland areas, while our friends along the coast and all the way along the bay are kind of flirting back and forth with 60s and 70s.
We have a close eye on that conflict between Israel and Iran. It has now entered its sixth day, and President Trump is calling for Iran's unconditional surrender. That country's supreme leader rejected that in a new address to his nation. As Natalie Brand reports, this all comes as the Trump administration is weighing whether to get involved.
Israel's military says it struck around 20 targets in Tehran overnight, prompting thousands to flee. In Israel, sirens blared as missiles were intercepted over the skies of the port city of Haifa.
We cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time.
President Trump took questions Wednesday morning with new flagpoles going up at the White House. Sources tell CBS News he's considering joining Israel in striking Iran's nuclear facilities, which could include Fordo, buried deep in a mountain.
I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble.
Sources tell CBS News there's not agreement among the president's closest advisors about next steps. Today, the president was also asked about his social media post calling for unconditional surrender by Iran's supreme leader.
Unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more.
In a recorded video, the Ayatollah said any military involvement by the U.S. would cause, quote, irreparable damage.
The Iranian regime has been just devastated.
H.R. McMaster served as a national security advisor during the first administration.
The effects that Israel's had, I mean, of course, we've been talking about the effects on the nuclear program, on the missile program, but I think they've killed something like 15 or so, nuclear scientists and decapitated the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps.
CBS News has learned Israel did not request that the U.S. join its effort militarily, leaving that choice to President Trump.
In a social media post this morning, the U.S. ambassador to Israel wrote that the U.S. is arranging flights and cruise ship departures to evacuate American citizens from Israel. We are learning that part of President Trump's budget could include selling off 250 million acres of federal land, including 16 million acres here in California. Reporter Tori Apodaca visited a nature preserve in the Sacramento Valley that could get turned into housing if Senate Republicans have their way.
Peace and quiet. It's hard to find these days.
We were out there for about 3 hours this morning, and it's a prize. It's really something worth saving.
Josh and Kathy Skirmerhorn find it here, surrounded by nature at the Consumnes River Preserve. But the U.S. Senate is considering selling federal land like this to turn into housing, while generating upward of $10 billion for the government.
The thought of the sale of public lands is pretty un-American.
The nonprofit coalition Outdoor Alliance is suspicious, saying there's no safeguards in this plan that would prevent pretty much anyone from buying it.
Whether it's extraction, timber sales, or if it's developments for wealthy developers or even foreign interests.
The other concern is this land really meant to be built on. We've historically seen flooding at the Consumnes Preserve, with waters spreading across the nearby wetlands and rice fields.
Flooding is natural, and so in some cases, this is like a preserve. It's an area that's not hurting anybody, and to let it be natural.
Republican Senator from Utah, Mike Lee, has been pushing for the for sale signs, but not everyone in his party is on board.
It is so important that any decisions made regarding the acquisition or disposition of these lands be made only after significant and meaningful local input.
Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley openly opposed the idea on the House floor several weeks ago. The House voted against it, but the proposal is still alive on the Senate side.
We have other places that there can be housing built, and it doesn't have to be on a pristine, precious preserve.
Will selling this federal land be a flip or a flop?
The proposal also includes some patches of land in the North Bay and in Santa Clara County. Senate Republicans have given themselves a deadline of July 4th to pass the bill. Looks like TikTok is getting another 90-day reprieve. The White House says President Trump will sign an order this week that would delay the enforcement of the bipartisan law that would effectively ban the platform here in the U.S. That law requires TikTok to be sold by its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, though so far there is no sign of a deal. The app has 170 million users here in the U.S. Well, now you can catch a Waymo, a driverless taxi, in even more parts of the peninsula. Waymo added 80 square miles to its driverless service, now covering Brisbane, South San Francisco, San Bruno, Millbrae, Burlingame, and parts of Palo Alto, Mountain View, and Los Altos. Emily Forlini with PC Mag says the expansion shows Waymo's dominance in the driverless taxi industry.
There was Cruise a couple years ago that kind of got taken off the road. Now Waymo is, king of the castle in this space, and Tesla's service is actually launching later this month. So that'll just be in Atlanta though. And I think it's going to be about 10 cars in a restricted area. So very different picture.
Riders can book trips through the Waymo app. Well, warning if you love seafood. According to a recent study, several species of fish caught in the San Francisco Bay might contain dangerous levels of forever chemicals. Those are chemicals that do not break down in the environment nor in your body. Our Ryan Yamamoto had the chance to talk to a pair of longtime anglers, and the author of this study, he has a breakdown on what fish you should avoid, what's safe to eat, and how much is safe to consume.
This is the best action I've seen out here yet.
On a sunny and scenic afternoon with holes in the water and time on their side.
You have no patience, you cannot fish.
For longtime fishermen Danny Tran and Nick Hayden,
hey, another one!
That patience would soon pay off.
Whoa! Look at that pole!
Oh, that big one.
Good size?
Yeah.
Really big. There we go.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Damn!
But a good catch comes with a catch of its own. A health warning for those who eat the fish they reel in.
To those who might have a seafood-heavy diet, to really think about, where might the seafood be coming from?
Miguel Mendez is part of a group of environmental scientists with the San Francisco Estuary Institute, whose research detected 20 types of forever chemicals, polyfluoroalkyl substances known as PFAS, in fish caught in the bay at 12 different locations.
PFAS have been known to harm us in a variety of different ways. They've been known to cause cancer, effects in a variety of different organs, including the liver, and over time can really cause some severe health effects.
Even before the study was complete, the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessments posted these signs along local docks, advising people about consuming fish in the bay. In April of 2023, they updated their recommendation on 18 fish species, on which types of fish you should avoid, which fish are safe to eat, and how many servings are recommended per week, along with age and gender advisories.
Definitely more fish today.
For Danny and Nick, they say they did not need a study to cast doubt on how much fish was safe to eat.
But I don't eat too much, fish, so I'm okay with it. I eat probably once a month, twice a month, and that's about it.
Oh yeah, you gotta choose what you eat though, The smaller the better, because there's less chemicals in them. The bigger ones have higher levels of, you know.
Able to land the big one that did not get away. But whether it is safe to eat or not, studies suggest it may be wise to limit your catch or even just cut bait.
Well, according to Mendez, the recently published study found, or by the SFEI, also found where in the bay could impact the levels of contamination. They tested fish caught near San Francisco, Sassoon, and San Pablo Bays and found the highest levels of PFAS in the South Bay. You can find the complete study on our website, kpix.com. Coming up next, the story of a father's pride in his daughter and how her coming out has led this deputy to push for change in his department.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Of this week for us all throughout the Bay Area. We're gearing up for 90s this afternoon in our inland spots like the East Bay, the North Bay, and for our friends in the Santa Clara Valley, we have mid-80s in the forecast throughout this afternoon with sunny skies widespread. We jump back down to the 70s though just in time for the first day of summer landing on Friday. It's going to be a beautiful way to kick off the first day of summer with a little bit more mild conditions and cloudier skies for our friends along the bay. Notice how if you live in San Francisco or Oakland, we're jumping to the 60s this weekend, 70s by next week.
No matter what's going on around you.
As we celebrate Pride Month, we want to introduce you to a San Mateo County deputy who was inspired by his daughter's coming out. Arlen Ramirez has more on his efforts to bring inclusivity to the Sheriff's Department.
We'll probably end up going somewhere. Well, what time's your meeting tonight? 7:30, but I also don't have to go.
What will you eat?
For as long as she could remember, Vanessa saw her father Carlos as a family pillar, a community protector as a deputy sheriff, and as her soccer and softball coach. But for years growing up, she carried a truth she never dared to share with her dad or her family. She was gay.
It wasn't just about telling my dad, it was about telling my entire family and risking, for me at that time, risking what I felt could be losing my family or more than anything disappointing them. Having a deputy as a father didn't, it didn't dawn on me that it would necessarily be the easiest to come out to tell them, so I waited for a really long time.
Vanessa says she knew from about the time she was in 3rd grade. It was a series of realizations that only grew stronger as she got older. But for years she kept it inside. That is until she met her partner, Mary Bell, and fell in love. Finally, at 21, she couldn't keep the secret any longer.
I remember when I did come out to my dad, and he very much told me that he loved me and that he supported me 100%. But one thing specifically rings a bell, and it's that he said that it wasn't going to be easy, that it was going to be difficult. Sorry. It was going to be a journey, and but that he supported me, that he loved me, and he cared about me.
I think I was glad that it was out in the open because I saw the struggles that she went through as a kid, and things started to make sense. But what I was scared was of the future and some of the things that she would have to go through along the way, along this journey. And to this day, you still see them, some of the things that she goes through, and some people are not as accepting. But I think as time goes on, I do see a change.
And now Carlos is a part of making that change. As the president of the San Mateo County Deputy Sheriff's Association, he's leading the effort to create rainbow patches that members can choose to wear on their uniforms during Pride Month. They're also sold to the public to raise funds for local LGBTQ services.
I think about Vanessa every time I'd wear it. It's a way of showing that, hey, I support her. And the LGBTQ community, not only just her, but the deputies in the sheriff's office.
And Vanessa has followed in her father's footsteps, becoming a labor leader in her own right with the Teamsters Union in San Mateo County, raising her voice to support workers in the gay community while still navigating her own personal path.
I can't say it's been smooth sailing since then. I'm 30 years old now, but it's been a journey, and that's part of it, but it makes me who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. I'm a Latina, I'm queer, I'm a woman, and I couldn't be more proud of who I am.
And something else happened that Vanessa didn't expect. Her coming out didn't tear the family apart, it brought them closer.
Our relationship's definitely gotten stronger, the bond's there. It's weird because I'm the parent, but I'm learning more from her now. And she's teaching me things, whether it's in labor or whether it's in the community she belongs to. I'm learning every day from Vanessa, so it's great.
Today, they still play ball, but it's just for fun and part of a family tradition. And now, as an adult, Vanessa doesn't see the authoritative father figure or the badge anymore when she looks at her dad. She sees the man who loves and supports her, no matter what.
There's a whole lot of memories here at this park.
And we'd love you to join us for our special Hope, Love, Pride. That starts at 10 a.m. Sunday, June 29th on Pix Plus 44 Cable 12 and streaming on the free CBS News app. Well, big soccer news coming out of San Jose. The Earthquakes are up for sale. The team announced that owner John Fisher hired an investment bank to sell a controlling stake. He's owned the team since 2007 and also owns the former Oakland A's, which is the team that's now relocating to Las Vegas. The San Francisco Giants back at Oracle Park tonight after welcoming one of the best batters the team has had in quite some time, Rafael Devers.
I know the potential that I have, and my mentality is not just to make the Dodgers suffer, but every team that we play against.
the buzz around our clubhouse on Sunday and leaving Sunday, and certainly in the off day and today has been, it's pretty immense.
Devers made his debut at Oracle Park last night against Cleveland Guardians. He got a warm welcome from the crowd and didn't take long to make an impact. In his first hit as a Giant, Devers drove in a run and gave the Giants a lead, but the Guardians ended up beating the Giants 3-2. The Golden State Valkyries return to Chase Center tomorrow, and they're going to be playing against the most famous face in the league. Going to be a big game. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever coming to town. The WNBA star missed some time over the past couple of weeks because of an injury, but she returned to the court on Saturday and scored 32 points against the New York Liberty. The Valkyries hoping to rebound after last night's loss on the road. The Dallas Wings ended their 3-game win streak. Final score 80-71. And you can win a chance to see the Valkyries take on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever tomorrow night. To enter, just head to our website, kpix.com/contest, and enter the code word FEVER. And if you can't make it to Chase Center, you can watch the game on KPIX. Our coverage starts at 6:30 tomorrow. Coming up, these great horned owls have necks tilted toward the sky is how they are drawing a crowd in one Bay Area neighborhood.
Just around 5 o'clock, around dinner time, we can see gusts up to around 30 miles per hour in San Francisco, 40-mile-per-hour winds all the way over into Bodega Bay. But I want to advance the clock all the way to our Thursday forecast, just around the same time, so around dinner time hours tomorrow. Well, now we're up to around 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts in San Francisco, while our friends in Livermore and Fairfield are experiencing about 30-mile-per-hour wind gust. All the way into Friday we go. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is it's going to be a repeat of that again as we head into the next couple afternoons. So it's important to note that breezy conditions are expected for us each day. And with that in mind, let's talk about the weather story for us today. We have some warm conditions as we head into this afternoon. We're talking about 90s, close to the triple digits all the way over in Antioch, with low 60s along our coast. Such a difference when it comes to our daytime highs and all these different microclimates here in the Bay. About 34 degrees of a difference from Antioch over into Half Moon Bay. We have 90s in the forecast this afternoon up into Santa Rosa, with 80s throughout the rest of wine country. And speaking of 80s, that's a very similar setup for our friends all the way into the Santa Clara Valley throughout this afternoon, with Morgan Hill being the exception of that.
Well, the hottest new celebs in the Bay Area have been spotted in the skies above a San Francisco neighborhood. Our Itai Hodge shows us why people have been flocking to Bernal Hill just to catch a glimpse.
On a hill in San Francisco, known more for its views than its visitors,
look at that.
A quiet crowd has started to gather. Every day, like clockwork, they show up in the same spot, necks craned towards the sky. It might look like a celebrity sighting, and in a way, it is.
Maybe April, I started to see photographers up on the hill here and, groups of people looking up into these trees.
What do you make of all of it?
I think it's wonderful. Part of me wants to tell everybody to shut up,
The newcomers drawing this attention, a pair of great horned owls and their fluffy, wide-eyed chicks.
It's an interesting phenomenon that's happened here on Bernal.
Liam Murphy is a designer and avid birder. He says even he didn't expect this much flap over a few feathers.
There's something really captivating for people about owls, that they have kind of like cat-like or almost human-like faces where the eyes face forward.
In a year where birds have been turning into bona fide sensations, like those bald eagles and Big Bear whose nest cam drew millions, this quiet pair has become the toast of Bernal Heights.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
I have not seen this kind of interest.
Whitney Grover is the director of conservation for Golden Gate Bird Alliance. She says great horned owls aren't that rare, but they usually nest much higher up. This pair picked a tree that puts them practically at eye level for anyone walking by.
It's not like an incredible phenomenon that they're there, but it's a great opportunity to see them during the day.
Some come for the photos, others just come for a closer look. Murphy hopes whatever brings them here, they leave with a little more love for the wild things that share this city, just as long as they don't get too close.
People really they're really captivated by the owls, but there's a tendency to sort of love them too much. Look at that eucalyptus branch.
Because sometimes the best way to bring a community together is to give a hoot about your neighbors.
According to the Golden Gate Bird Alliance, the chicks will likely be at Bernal Heights for a few more weeks. But if you do go looking, they remind everybody to keep your distance. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Magovic. We're going to be right back with your first alert forecast and another look at your top stories.